It is so quiet here. I have this place completely to myself, which is pretty wonderful. I've come to the top of the valley where I live, River Ystwyth. Now, all the other walks I've taken you on so far have been places I know really well. This, however, is somewhere I only discovered back in the spring, even the late winter, when I was just deciding to stop. If you've listened to a few of these or watched a few of these video podcasts, you'll know that the woods that I normally walk in were pretty much decimated by a storm back at the beginning of the year, and for a while it was impossible to walk there, and it was a time when I was feeling terribly confused, and well, I still am rather, very much feeling like I needed to stop, not knowing what direction to take, not knowing what to do, and I felt like I really needed a new perspective. And it was really interesting that at the time I was forced out of my normal routine, my normal walking routine, my normal work routine. Everything was sort of taken away from me, and I discovered this place, which is about 20, I'm just going to turn around so you can see the valley behind me. It's about 20 minutes from my front door. You can't see it terribly clearly actually, never mind. But the big drop, the valley just drops down. And when I came here, it felt very much like I was discovering somewhere new within somewhere I knew, so a new perspective within the place that I lived, and that felt really, really exciting. It's also the source of the River Ystwyth, which I've mentioned in numerous video podcasts and audio podcasts over the years, the river that I often walk by, and it starts here. So I thought today it would be rather exciting to take you on a walk to where the river starts, or near enough where it starts. I actually think somewhere up there. So yeah, somewhere over there is its actual source, in a boggy field, but we'll go to where it starts running, and you can hear it, and it just feels lovely. So, shall we go for a walk? So, it's actually a lovely calm day today. The very first time I walked here, it was so windy. In fact, I think the storm that had knocked trees down felt like it was still blowing up here, and a few trees were blown down here, but nothing like the number of trees that were blown down in the woods where I walk. And I say decimated, and I often talk about the woods being decimated, and I think probably literally they were. I think, if I'm right, decimated means 1 in 10 being I think it's a military term, so I think it probably means 1 in 10 being killed, but actually I could quite believe that 1 in 10 of the trees in the woods were blown down. I know when I was counting on my walk, I got to 50 and just stopped because I couldn't bear to count anymore. But as I've often said, since then the woods do feel as they're rejuvenating, and a new and slightly different lease of life now. One of the things about this place, which I found quite magical, is this arch. I can't believe I'd never seen or heard this place. This arch is very large. You see it from the road, and it feels like quite a thing, quite a landmark. It was built, I think, to commemorate something to do with William IV. I'm not sure what, perhaps I should look it up and tell you about it a bit later. But I really like walking through it, and I really like looking back through it at that view, which I think is amazing. So we're looking down into the valley, into the Ystwyth Valley. It's rather a grey day today, but nonetheless it's still pretty spectacular. And you can see the trees starting to change colour. So this is the walk that I've done a few times now, nowhere near as many times as I've walked by the river. And I did wonder when I first found this place whether it was going to be a new place for regular walks. It hasn't quite become that, because it wasn't that long. I think it took about 6 weeks for the woods, the paths in the woods at least, to be cleared, so I could walk there again. And it is a much easier walk there. This is actually quite a challenging walk. I've got to be feeling quite well to do it. In fact, I don't think I'm going to do all of it today. I think we're going to walk down as far as where we can hear the river, and I will walk back rather than walk round in the circular walk, which you can do here, but it goes down much further, and there's a really, really steep climb which comes out in those trees. So it's a nice circular walk, and I do like circular walks, but it's also quite a challenging circular walk, so I think today we won't do all of it. And as you can see by this post we're coming up to, there's 3 potential walks here. I'm not actually sure which is which one I'm taking. I know which one I'm taking, but I'm not sure which colour it is. So like in the woods where I regularly walk by the Ystwyth, I have about 3 walks there as well, and I often can do the really short walk, but the difference there is it's a lovely flat walk, about 15 minutes, and quite easy. So here we are. I do like familiar walks because I think, like with most things, if we keep doing them, we start to see things with a new depth. And I think a regular walk, particularly in those woods, as the seasons change, I feel like over the years I've got to know it very well, and I feel like I see it. Well, often I see it with new eyes, even when I've done it so many times, but I feel like I see it at greater depth as the years go on. And this place, I can imagine that happening, but at the moment it's also new. It's sort of quite, I sort of float on the surface of it somehow. I don't know, I can't think of a better way of explaining it than that, really. I know pretty much every bit of the path that I walk on by the Ystwyth, and this, I'm starting to know it. I know that along here, for instance, and I missed them this year, there are lots of blueberries, and it would be nice to come back and to pick them. I picked a few blueberries this year, or bilberries probably actually would be a more accurate name for them. They're much smaller than blueberries. I picked some on a different walk, but not here. So I would quite like to come back. So I'm getting used to that. But it's just so quiet. I mean, a few cars go by on the road behind us, but as you get further into the woods, of course, you don't hear those. When I first arrived, it was completely silent. Sometimes where I park, there are 2 or 3 cars there and people walking, but you often very rarely see people. But today there weren't even any cars, so I think I have this lovely place all to myself, which is rather wonderful. So I know that you can walk up and up, but in a moment we're going to turn around to the left, and probably quite soon after that you'll hear the sound of the Ystwyth, the really tiny, fast-moving beginnings of the River Ystwyth. In fact, we don't even need to go. This is a tributary. It's going quite slowly today, but I often wonder, it's not really moving fast enough, I often wonder if you could drop a little boat in at the top, whether you could follow it somehow, perhaps GPS tracker or something, you could follow it to the sea. That would be quite exciting. But, so yes, it is possible to walk up there, but that's more than I can manage. So we're doing the white walk. So few trees changing colour. Quite a lot of the trees here are evergreen, but there are a few that are starting to change colour. first time I walked here, there was snow on the ground, and it was snowing, and it was spring. It wasn't really the depths of winter, but we're quite high up here. It was rather lovely to see the snow. It felt really quite magical. It was really exciting. I was really excited to find this place. I think I've lived here. I lived in the valley. I lived in the town. I've lived in the River Ystwyth area for longer. But I've lived in the valley for 17 years. And to find somewhere new, isn't that beautiful? To find somewhere new after all that time, at a time when it felt actually like the world was getting smaller and closing down, was fantastic. So I felt really privileged to discover this place and to think I can walk here. And if I was fitter, I think I would really, really like to walk here more and explore some of the other footpaths as well. But as I said at the beginning, this is quite a challenging walk for me, so probably best not to try and do it too much. But lovely to do it today with you. I had wanted to do it last week. I think the river actually must be really dry, because I think, again, another tributary here, there's absolutely nothing flowing there. Look at the leaves. The lovely sound of kicking leaves in the autumn. I don't think you can see very clearly, but you can probably just about hear. But really can't see much. Little gully, the river will be flowing, or tributaries of the river will be flowing down there. I can hear the water. Getting a bit louder. There's actually quite a steep, goes down quite steeply here. I'm actually keen not to go too much further, because I'm aware that if the more I go down, the more I'm going to have to come up again. Oh, this is more like it. So, can you just see there? Another little tributary. I should go a bit further. I should have got my tea with me. I've got a flask of tea in the car. I could have brought it along with me and sat with that for a while to wait till I get back to the car for it. It's actually quite early. I think it's 9:30 in the morning. I left the house just after 9. So I've not very many cups of tea through my day yet. I probably need another cup of tea. I would probably not have actually emerged from the house quite yet normally, and I would have probably been on my 3rd pot of tea, and I suspect I've only had one this morning. Oh gosh, look, we are doing an awful lot more of the walk than I intended, but I do want to try and get to the bit where the river is moving more quickly, which is a little further on, I think. So we shall follow this path around. I think we're approaching the bit that I was imagining. I sort of thought this was a bit further back further back up the path, but that's because I don't know it so well here yet. Yes. Getting louder. So here we are. So I suppose those 2 or 3 tributaries I showed you have joined together here. It's still very small, but it is moving more quickly. It's so amazing to think that all this feeds into that river that I've showed you in a few different places. So there we are. Small, but definitely the beginning of something. And that's a good way, it's a good thing to think. I've just walked on a little further and I've found another bigger tributary, which is I think what I was thinking about. Moving much faster here and going underneath the path. And out the other side, this was the point actually that I was imagining, putting a little boat in and just seeing if it found its way to the sea where we were walking a couple of weeks ago. Right, I shall walk on. I've made it to the top of the hill. I've had to take my hat off and I just thought I'd say hello from here. There's a lovely view looking down into the valley. And I can still just about hear the river. I wonder if you can hear it. I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer and catch my breath. There's still a little bit of a trek back to the car, but after a little tiny bit more up, it's flat back to the car. So I have a pot of tea or a flask of tea sitting there waiting for me. So that's a good incentive. But I think I shall just sit here for a little bit longer and enjoy the view. I shall see you in my studio a little bit later, and we can have 20 minutes of work together. Bye bye. Hello, I'm back in my studio. It's actually Saturday. The walk at River Ystwyth was yesterday, Friday, and I had intended to come back and have a work session pretty much straight away in the studio here, but I was so tired when I got home. I went to bed and I slept for a huge chunk of yesterday, and I decided that I would just wait and have the work session today, which felt more relaxed. And yeah, so here I am. It's lovely to have your company. Would you like to join me for 20 minutes of creative work? I'm just looking to see where my timer is here. Oh yeah, not feeling terribly organised. Never mind, that's all right. I'm going to be carrying on working on the blanket, which I've been doing now just over a week, I think. Is that right? Certainly we had a session with this last week, I think. It is growing, however, I'm realising just what a big project this is. Yeah, it feels a bit daunting at the moment. I think so much feels quite daunting at the moment, and I seem to manage to create something else for myself which does, and I can't even see where I'm up to with it. It must be here somewhere. Oh, there we are. There. Ooh. Let's start. Let's wind up the timer. "20 minutes on the clock." Good luck with whatever you're doing, and I do hope you are joining me for 20 minutes of something that you would like to make a little bit of progress with. Before I start, I was saying yesterday when we were walking through that lovely arch at the top of the valley that I thought it was something to do with William IV. It's not. I did check. It was constructed to commemorate George III's Golden Jubilee. So, yeah, I was completely wrong. It sounded like I knew what I was talking about as well. I obviously didn't. But, there we are. So, George III. Right, let's get on with a little bit of work. often at this point I'm finding it really difficult to decide whether I want my heater on and my hat on, or just my hat and no heater, or heater and no hat, or no heater and no hat. This week I feel like I'm really clear, certainly at the moment, that it's a hat and heater day. It's cooled down a bit. It feels like, well, it feels like the seasons have really changed. In a couple of weeks, 3 weeks I think, of course the clocks will change too here, and suddenly it's going to be very dark. We're going to be in what feels much more like winter, which can be lovely. It can feel beautiful and hibernatory and cosy. So part of me is very much looking forward to it. But I do miss the light. And it's been so light this summer, so much bright sun. Though we have been being weaned off it a little bit over the last few weeks. I'm getting used to it, and I'm really quite enjoying the change in the light, actually. I like the change in the light, just not so keen on it disappearing. Oh dear. Anyway, it'll be fine. I'm getting in a bit of a mess here between microphone cables and yarn. What are you working on this week? It's lovely to read in the comments below if you're watching this on Facebook. Not on Facebook, on YouTube. Gosh, I'm really not very with it, am I? Hearing what you're up to. So do let me know what you're doing, what you're working alongside me in 20 minutes. And as I was saying at the beginning of this blanket suddenly feels like rather a daunting thing. I've got a course called Get One Thing Done, which is a free course. It's not quite available yet. It used to be on my website, but I'm moving it over to Teachable. But it will be available very soon. But the kind of core of that course is about practicing picking a creative project and being realistic about how long it takes, and being prepared to sort of accept that as we work on something we begin to recognise more clearly how long things are going to take, so we get a really realistic picture of how long something will take, and then over time we get much better at doing that, at realising how long something's going to take, so we're more careful about the projects we pick. And if you like me, you want to work in small chunks of time, learn to pick projects that fit well with that. This for me is quite a new thing to be doing. I mean I really enjoy crocheting. I've been crocheting for a few years now, but not very adventurous crocheting. Just sort of, it's been a bit of a relaxation for me really. But I seem to be getting a bit deeper into it at the moment. But I'm not at all practiced at knowing how long things will take. When I started this, I thought maybe I can get it done in a couple of weeks. As you know, if you watched last week, I'm hoping to make 2 blankets, one larger one and one smaller one. And I'm working on the larger one first. But I can see after this week, I think this is probably about 6 weeks work. Yeah, working at the pace I have been working, or nearly the pace I have been working. I think I was very enthusiastic the first week. I was making reasonably quick progress, and even so, it felt like it was slow. I mean, the growth was slow. So, I'm questioning a little bit whether it'll be good for me to be just doing this, actually. I don't know, it might be fine. It might be fine. But because things feel so daunting at the moment, so many things feel really big around me, I feel quite lost in this sort of in-between place that I'm in at the moment. I wonder if some things that feel like I can make progress on might be better. So I don't know, I'm just questioning a little bit whether it would be a good idea to go back and finish that pair of socks I was working on, the purple socks I've been working on. just to sort of help me feel a bit more like there's progress. I don't know, actually. I'm noticing with this, I'm really enjoying waking up in the morning and sitting in bed and doing a little bit. And if I'm not sleeping well, which I'm not doing wonderfully at the moment, I can also work on it at night, which I couldn't really do with the purple socks because it was so dark and the stitches were so small. I found it really difficult to work on in the dark. Well, not the dark, but not daylight. It seemed to just need daylight for me to be able to work on it. So, I don't know. Like with most things, I keep saying a lot, I don't know. That's my mantra at the moment, I think. Because I don't know about all sorts of things. I'm just moving ahead a stitch at a time and see what happens. And actually, as I say those words, I wonder actually whether this is actually not a bad symbol for that place, that kind of just making those steps, those stitches within something quite big. Actually, maybe it is just the thing to do. Maybe this is why I'm doing it. Maybe I just need to accept that it feels a bit daunting and focus on each little step, each little stitch, each session, and not worry about the whole picture, actually. Maybe I've just answered my own question. Maybe this is exactly what I need to be doing at the moment. Maybe it is. This past week, I'm just making sure I'm actually recording this. I would be very annoyed if I wasn't. Yes, I am. This past week has been my last sort of normal week in terms of work for a while. I mentioned last week that I'm taking a month away from work. I'm sort of trying on living a different sort of life for this month, mostly focusing on making these video podcasts and very little else, and I'm going to see how that feels. Yeah, feels exciting to be embarking on that. It feels a relief to be stepping away a bit from the other things I've been doing. Last week and the week before, I think, I didn't record any audio podcasts. Last week it was a decision. The week before it just sort of happened. And I've really noticed just how much easier things have felt. Even the other more normal work stuff I've been doing felt easier. It felt as if I'd already started a bit of a break, actually. And I'm quite surprised about that because the podcasts have been so much, the audio podcasts have been so much part of my life for so long. And when I stopped working for the big chunk of time back in March, I stopped the podcast, but I also stopped everything else. So I wasn't really clear about which things made things feel better. I did feel a lot better during that period. Certainly towards the end of that period, I felt a lot better. I was sleeping much better. I had energy and enthusiasm for other things, and life just felt easier. So it's been interesting to see this past week, just what past couple of weeks actually, what a relief it's been and how much easier it's felt not making the audio podcast. So maybe that's something I need to think about a bit more. I mean, I was wondering whether they were one of the things that I was going to cut back on. I'm not even sure it's the work that's involved, particularly because these video podcasts are a lot of work. They take up a lot of time. The thinking about them, the actual filming of them, but the editing, the managing the video files and the editing, a big job actually. I mean, I think they could easily be a week's work. It's interesting. So I'm not sure that it's the work aspect of the audio podcast that the problem. Partly it is, perhaps, but it's more that 4 days a week I feel I need to be here and be sort of public. Either be okay about be feeling okay to do it, or if I'm not feeling okay, to be able to be open and honest about that. And recently I'm really not feeling okay an awful lot of the time, and it's quite hard actually to be doing something on a really regular basis without you don't feel okay when you're struggling. And it's been quite nice to have been able to take a bit of a step back from that, I think. I wonder if that is a big part of it. So anyway, all these things are things to think about. I'm not at all, as I keep saying, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what is happening next. Apart from the fact I'm really, really enjoying doing this. I'm enjoying doing this, the kind of making the video podcast, but I'm enjoying doing this too. I'm enjoying doing the crocheting, even if this particular thing feels a bit daunting. Yeah, so that's good. And whilst it feels a bit new, it also feels like it's growing out of something else, so that's good. It doesn't feel like it's a complete change of direction. Anyway, there we are. That's sort of what I've been thinking about this week. I've also been listening to an Agatha Christie. Last week I was asking for suggestions for audiobooks, and I haven't picked a new one yet. I've been listening to the one, the 450 from Paddington, which I was listening to mostly as my falling asleep book, whilst I was listening to the Sophie Hannah Poirot book that I was talking about last week. And yeah, I started listening to it properly this week while I've been crocheting, which has been nice. So yeah, thank you very much to everyone who made suggestions for books. There's a lot out there actually, and I've discovered some stuff that I've not heard of before, as well as been reminded of some things that I've thought in the past that I've liked, and some things I've actually listened to a little before or read before but had not pursued. So I will pick something new after I finish this Agatha Christie. I've got some porridge bubbling away on the stove. I can't remember if I've mentioned this before or not. Last winter I got in the habit of slow cooking porridge, cooking it in sort of a bain-marie. So I've sort of improvised one. I have a glass Pyrex dish which fits really nicely into a saucepan I've got, and the saucepan lid fits perfectly on top of it. And I put my porridge oats and other things. I like tahini in my porridge, and blueberries I'm having at the moment. I haven't got any, but I also quite like sesame seeds in my porridge. I need to get some of those. But I think the sesame seeds and the tahini, I think that's what tahini is, isn't it? So I'm getting sesame. But I put it on a really low heat. I put the lid on, and I usually put it on, or I have been putting it on when I've been waking up in the morning. And then an hour and a half later, I have a lovely vat of porridge, and it does taste really nice when it's cooked slowly. It's a different thing, I think, properly slow cooked porridge. So I'm back with that habit at the moment. So while I'm out here doing this, my porridge, my breakfast, is cooking. So I can just go in a little while. I'm going to I'm going to have a lovely bowl of porridge. I quite like hot buttered toast with my porridge. I have a feeling if you're in North America you might call porridge oatmeal. Not absolutely sure about that, but I think so. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe I'm talking about oatmeal. But I find it quite a sustaining, quite a nice sustaining way to start the day. It keeps me going till lunchtime. So that feels like a nice sort of routine at the moment. I come downstairs, and I usually cook some fish for the cats. They're very spoilt, my cats. But I usually cook some pollock or some collie for the cats. I usually do it in the microwave. It's not really hard to do. And when I'm doing that, I also putting my porridge on at the moment. So it's quite a nice, relaxed way to start the day, and it's often, well, it has been dark while I've been doing that, which is a bit new. But it feels a very gentle way to start the day, nice and quiet. And there's something about cooking porridge this way. It's slow cooking, but it's also quiet cooking. I mean, there's a gentle bubbling. Need to have it really low, otherwise, well, the water evaporates, but also it just makes a mess. I don't think it will cook it any quicker, but it just makes a mess with water everywhere. So I do it at a really low heat, and there's a really gentle kind of bubble, not unlike a slow ticking clock. And it just feels lovely in the kitchen where that's happening. So I'm looking forward, once we've had our work session, to going back inside and having a bowl of porridge and a couple of slices of hot buttered toast. And I can imagine as the winter, as the autumn turns into winter, I'll be lighting the fire as well. First thing in the morning, and then probably be sitting there in front of the fire with my porridge, toast, and a pot of tea. And that feels like a very good way to start the day. I wonder if you have any gentle routines that you'd like to share. I think my best routines are my morning routines. I seem quite good at making morning routines that do support me. I think not so good at later routines. Though actually, I've been going to bed earlier recently, and I sort of start getting things ready for bed earlier on in the evening at the moment, and that's quite good. I've got a new teas made. A fantastic contraption that makes my morning tea, my first pot of morning tea. My old one. Gosh, that was 20 minutes. My old one started to leak, so I got rid of it, and for a while I was just having a flask of tea ready in the morning for the morning. But it's lovely to have teas made back again, so I get it set up. That's quite a nice way of having an evening routine and sort of starting that kind of, it's getting to be time for bed. So that's another routine of mine at the moment. There we are. I wonder if that was about a row in 20 minutes. And I think there's going to be about 200 rows in this blanket. So, well, I don't think I can do the maths, and I don't know if I even want to. I have done quite a few. I've done about 50 now, I think. So, maybe I'm about a quarter of the way through this blanket. Oh, I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. It's been lovely to have your company both today and yesterday for a walk. I really enjoyed that walk yesterday, and I really enjoyed sitting on that bench. And I was thinking, I've edited the first half of this video together already, and as I was getting to the bit about the bench, I was thinking actually it's not too much of a walk in terms of up and down or distance from where I park my car to where that bench is. And I wonder if actually that might be quite a nice walk to do on days when I haven't got much energy and I want to go somewhere a bit different and have a fresh perspective. I could walk to the bench, I could remember to take my tea with me, and I could sit there. And it's a beautifully quiet place. I posted a photograph of the bench that I was sitting on Instagram yesterday. And it is beautiful. It's a beautiful place. So maybe it can be that can be a bit of a new place if I'm not always up to doing the walk. I feel like when I go there, I need to be feeling well enough to do at least some of that walk that we did yesterday, and often I don't. But I wonder if I would feel well enough to go there, to walk to that bench, to sit there for a while, and to walk back to the car. And I wonder if that might feel like a very satisfying thing to do. So maybe that'll be something I'll do again, and maybe it could be a walk that we can take in a future video podcast. Thank you very much for watching today. It's been lovely to have your company. If you're enjoying these podcasts, these video podcasts, or even if you're just listening to the audio version and enjoying those, I'd be very grateful if you would spread the word a little bit. If everybody tells 2 people, things will start to grow, and that will be fantastic. So, thank you. If you're new here and you'd like to keep watching or keep listening, if you particularly like to keep watching, click on the subscribe button on YouTube, and I think there's a subscribe link below this video if you're watching it on the web page. If you would like to have email updates, then how do you do that? There is below this video, or below the audio link, there's a subscribe to the email button. I think there's 3 ways you can subscribe to the audio version. There's the RSS feed, there's going directly to iTunes, or there's an email link. If you click the email link, you can enter your email address and you will be sent an email every time I upload a new audio or video podcast. Sorry, I'm not very organised, as I said today. So yes, and if you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button on YouTube. That would be I'd be very grateful. So thank you. It's been great to have your company, and I shall look forward to seeing you again next week and deciding where next week's walk is, and let's make a little bit more progress with this blanket. Take care. Thank you very much for watching.